Entitled parents tell me to F off in my own yard? Enjoy your free shower. A few years ago, I lived in a house that was a block away from a public park. It was a very large park, and I noticed 2 soccer games occurring when I left one Saturday to go to the grocery store. When I returned home about 45 minutes later, I noticed that there was a truck parked beside my property. The occupants of that truck were on my property. There were 2 children dressed in soccer uniforms, their mom and dad, and a large Doberman. The Doberman was lying on a picnic blanket. The parents were setting up their family's picnic lunch, and the children were chasing each other, all on my front lawn. I couldn't believe my eyes. I pulled my car into my driveway and walked over to the family asking them why they were on my property. The entitled mother then snarked at me. "What does it look like we're eating lunch?" I asked, "Why are they not eating in the public park that is a block away?" And she responded, "It's more peaceful here." In complete shock, I then said, "This is private property and you all need to leave now." The mother's response was, "Go screw yourself, you little jerk." I was furious. I pay the mortgage, I do all the lawn work, and you think it's okay to trespass and tell me where to go on my own property. So this was the easiest revenge ever. I walked right beside them to the outside tap that was attached to my sprinkler system and turned it on. The family started screaming and grabbed all their stuff as they ran into their truck. The mother and father screamed obscenities at me the whole time and said they were going to get me. Well, this is where revenge number 2 came in. I downloaded my security camera footage which showed their license plate and brought it to my next door neighbor who just happened to be a police officer who was working that day. The parents were charged with trespassing and I had a smile on my face for the rest of the day. I get that what they were doing they may have seen as like harmless or whatever, but it was just so ridiculously entitled to be like, yep, this private property is now our property. Cue the Russian national anthem. In general, they just got what they deserved. It was absolutely trespassing and they got charged with it. So it's how the cookie crumbles. Story 2. Entitled mother tried to reduce my pay for attempting to seduce her husband. I started babysitting families in my church growing up. Between ages 12 and 16, I babysat for over 30 families, and I was highly requested in that community. I knew everyone and I attended that church since I was 4. Everyone knew me, I knew everyone, very tight-knit. So I babysit for a family we will call the Smiths. I knew the Smith family since I was 10 and they had children that were younger than me. I helped these kids for Children's Mass. I knew the family and we were kind of close because I was one of the kids' helpers in a class unit. Plus, we all knew each other from the church and school. Now, I'm 13-ish when this happened. I babysat for the family, the Smiths, and it was going well. They had a pool in their backyard, and the dad had told me to pack a bathing suit. He said, the kids will probably beg you to swim with them if you don't mind, but you don't have to. So I babysat these kids for about 5 hours, 1 to 5, and 4 hours in, the husband came home to take a work call, and then he would help with the kids, and my parents would take me home. 20 minutes before the dad gets home, the kids want to swim. I agree and we all get ready. I had chosen a normal bathing suit for a 13-year-old, but I had a larger chest than others my age and the mom of these kids as well. Now the dad comes home and asks if things are good. I tell him yes, and he tells me he will find us when he's done with his work call. It's about 5 and he comes out and asks to take another call. He asks to take a picture to send to his wife to let her know I'll watch the kids for a little longer since he had another call. TLDR, all went well, until the wife shows up. Everything's going good, the kids are having a blast, I help them dry off, help them shower, and change as the wife gets ready to take over and the husband had started making dinner. I was in my oversized shirt bringing the kids downstairs when the wife signals to me. She pulls me aside and begins to shame me. She tells me I will not be getting paid from 4 to 5:45 for dressing like a harlot in an attempt to stray her husband from me. That my choice of swimsuit was provocative and she should have known better not to trust me. She said I was promiscuous and that my breasts would get me nowhere in life and I was going to be assaulted dressing like that. I was flabbergasted because A, I'm barely 13 at the time, and B, I wasn't wearing a revealing swimsuit. I just nod and profusely apologize because I wore this to the pool and never had any problems and me and my bestie had matching ones. I was sobbing hysterically, took my money and sat on the porch waiting for my mom to come pick me up. I hear yelling inside. Dad comes out, gives me $50 and goes back to yelling at his wife inside the house. I don't know if this is as much entitled parent as it is just insecure parent. In my experience, that kind of whole shaming other people for what they wear actually comes from a lot of self-insecurity, and that definitely sounds like the case here. I'm sorry this mother is not happy with whatever is going on, but telling a 13-year-old girl that the way she dresses is going to get her assaulted? Ma'am, behave yourself. Story 3. Entitled parent upset because their kid won't sleep without visiting our cats every day and we said no. Our neighbors who live in the same house have a 3-year-old son and we have 3 indoor cats. One day, the father knocked on the door telling us his son lately grew fond of cats, and if it was possible that his son can see them. We let them in, but it turned out the boy still has two left hands when it comes to animals, and the father doesn't interfere when the kid chases them, screeches at them, and pulls on their tails. Oh, and throws toys at them. As you can guess, we weren't too pleased. Next day, same time in the evening, father and kid knock on our door. The father demanding that his son can meet the meow meows again. This time, my husband opened the door and was somewhat surprised by them requesting another visit, blindsided, and let them in again. Same procedure as the day before, a solid half hour of screeching and chasing these scared and startled cats. Day 3, we just sat down for dinner. The father knocks on our door, letting us know that it's his son's bedtime and that he's ready to play with his meow meows. I kindly but clearly explained that we're just about to have dinner and that we cannot make this a daily playdate, because our cats are not happy about this as they are not too used to children and one of them is blind. I told him it's too much for the animals. My husband and I are both working full-time and our evenings having dinner together is our relaxing time that we would like to spend alone. The following 2 hours, we heard the kid screaming his head off, demanding to meet his meow meows, following by furious knocking at our door, which we opened to our very angry neighbor pointing at his son's blue face from crying. He yells at us, saying this sad face should make us think about the consequences of decisions we make for other people. His son won't sleep anymore without seeing his beloved meow meows. Yes, he seriously kept using this term and also the possessive adjective. I tried to solve this in a civilized manner by keeping calm, but pointing out that it wasn't our idea to make seeing our cats his son's getting ready to sleep ritual, and that he cannot expect from us to make this a daily schedule, but we were marked as general child haters already. 2 days later, our landlord called us to remind us to please not let our cats out into the hallway because the neighbor's child is allergic to cats. Okay, I don't really get what happened at the end. Was the child actually allergic to cats the whole time and the parents were just like, they didn't know or what? Either way, crazy entitled parents. Other people's pets are not your child's pets. And they were so nice to let them in the 2 times already. Like, let me make that clear. These people with the 3 cats are saints for letting their child play with them in their house. This child sounds like a menace, and the parenting sounds, lackadaisical, to put it lightly. Story 4. My dad told me I was a failure as a man and as a son because I told him I wanted to go to Hawaii on vacation. So back in October, I got a new job, and when I got the offer, I asked them what the latest possible start date was so that I could travel. They gave me a month. So I decided that I'll solo travel to Hawaii as I've always wanted to go my entire life. Well, when I told my dad I wanted to go, he immediately asked me when I was going to grow up and stop acting like a child, and he told me that traveling is a dream only children have. He then told me I'm a failure as a man and a son because I wasn't married at 15 and haven't bought my parents a house. Mind you, my relationship with him is significantly better than it is with my mom. By the way, still went on the trip. Man, I am glad you went on that trip. What in the world is this dad talking about? It is a child's dream to travel the world? Oh, so all those great explorers whose dream it was to travel the world who invented modes of transportation and, I don't know, navigated and charted out the earth? They're just children, right? They're just children. Makes sense. Cool. Story 5. Father passed away last week. Younger sister and her ex asked about getting their son's college fund before we had the funeral. My father passed away last week following an accident. He had set up a college education fund for each of his grandchildren. I have an older sister and a younger sister. The younger sister has an addiction problem that she refuses to get help for, even though she has had many generous offers to pay for rehab and pay for her ongoing expenses while in rehab. More than 5 years ago, her son no longer wanted to live with her because of her addiction, so her ex got custody. She has not visited her son since then, even though she has visitation rights. Because of this and several other times where she refused to take responsibility for her actions, just about the entire family went no contact with her 5 years ago. Only one cousin was still in contact with her, but she cut contact in early 2022. Our aunt, Dad's sister, felt younger sister should know about Dad's passing, so she did contact her with the news and information about the funeral service. Younger sister only wanted to know about what will happen with her son's college education fund and would she have access to the fund. Her son still has another year of high school left. My older sister did contact younger sister's ex because she felt our nephew had the right to know about his grandfather's passing and have the opportunity to attend the funeral service. The ex said that he would bring our nephew to the funeral, but then he wanted to know about the college education fund and if he would be getting access to it. I am the person in charge of all the remaining education funds, and I can't even access them yet. But the trust is set up so that I am only able to make distributions to the college, university, or vocational school. The grandchildren must first be enrolled in the school, and then the funds go directly into an account at the school to cover tuition, fees, and books, and possibly housing if they live on campus. After I explained this to my younger sister and to her ex, the conversations ended quickly. Neither my younger sister nor her son attended Dad's funeral service. Also, the ex told older sister that our nephew will be on academic probation when he starts his last year of high school. Good thing the educational funds are also able to pay for vocational schooling. Ooh, I personally hate sharks that just wait for a family member to die, and when the family member does die, all they can think about is, oh, the money though. That plus a substance abuse problem that she isn't getting help for, it's not a good look. That's all I'll say. Story 6. My mom is mad that I decided to leave for college earlier than necessary. For some background info, I had posted on Am I the Jerk before about how my older brother would constantly eat everything in the house and not contribute anything to the family. He's 23. We would then be left with bread, water, and pasta while him and his girlfriend would constantly go out for food while also paying no bills and leaving everything on my mom. I have a gluten problem, so I can't eat bread and pasta, and I'd essentially be left starving. Once I did get a job, I'd buy things I'd be able to eat, gluten-free products, and he'd still eat everything up in 2 days, and for the next week, I was left to starve again. It got to the point where I had lost so much weight, my doctor was concerned. He recommended I started to drink some protein shakes and get a better balanced diet. I had bought a few cases of Ensures, and when I went to get them the next day, they were all gone. So I immediately purchased a mini fridge and installed a lock on my door. This was fine for about 3 months until I came home and my door was removed and my mother berated me and basically yelled at me for holding out on them. Anyway, to sum that part up, for the next few months, nothing changed, but I was able to eat a little more and I'm up to a healthy weight. I also got a full ride to my top college, and they invited me to their honors college and a summer program which will give me college credits, and they'll also fly me out to them. All I'd have to pay for was my dorm supplies and clothes if I wanted any new ones. When I told my mom about it, she immediately said no to the program and to college because I'd be leaving her, and she needs me because I'm her rock, and I can't just leave her with my brother. Okay, then kick him out. Live by yourself. This is the same man she protected and kept taking his side during arguments. Everyone else in my family has cut him off except for her. After 3 arguments about the program, I enrolled anyway because my grandparents gave me money to pay for my enrollment and board fee, which was only $500. But since I'm 17, they emailed her to confirm if I could go. Luckily, she was cooking, so I just ran into her room and accepted it myself and deleted the email. Well, the program starts June 11th, and the whole week before that I was packing and slowly hiding things in my grandparents' house until it was time for me to leave. I don't know how, but my mom found out and called the college to say that she never signed the slip and that I would not be enrolled, keeping me from going to college. She then broke my computer saying that I won't need it since I won't be going to college anyway. I had called the college and there was nothing I could really do because I was a minor at the time. But 2 weeks ago I turned 18. I explained my situation to the college and they let me continue the program but said I'd have to pay for the flight down here myself. After that I called my grandma and had her come get me and the rest of my things. My mom was pissed. She was screaming, crying, and yelling, asking me how I could just abandon her with my brother after all she's done for me. I still have the knot on my head from her tackling me and making me bang my head against our concrete stairs. My grandparents asked me if I wanted to press charges, but honestly, I just wanted to be away from her. She keeps texting me after what happened and said she's going to sue me for emotional damages, but that's not likely since she can't even afford to feed her family. I'm living with my grandparent now and I've never been more fed. I think I'll get all my strength back before I leave my grandparents' house. This is all honestly crazy for me because she's never acted like this. This past year, she's just been on a downward spiral. It really sounds like OP's mom here just needs some help. I was completely with OP oh, this mom sucks, she's the worst, until the very end. Something that comes up like this so suddenly is definitely indicative of a deeper-seated problem medically. I would love her to be able to get help and honestly kick the deadbeat brother out of the house too. On the other hand, great work to OP for getting out of there. Absolutely the correct decision. And I'm really surprised the grandparents were do you want to press charges? Usually they're oh, but she's family kind of thing, but this, you know what, 10 out of 10. Great work, grandparents. Story 7. Mother-in-law says she deserves to know when we start trying for a baby. Oh boy, you already know. I'm 23F, husband is 27M. She said, I deserve to know when you're going to start trying to have kids. I don't need all the gory details, but I do think I deserve to know the truth and have a heads up. When I was explaining way too nicely how that was TMI and that we would want to wait to announce in case I had a loss or something, she then went on a rant about how I'm disgusting. All she wanted when she had a loss was to go cry to her mom and tell her everything. So for me to want to keep her grandbaby a secret despite all the support she would give me because she just wants to help is absolutely disgusting. All of this occurred on a phone call when my husband and I were announcing that we had just bought our first home, and instead of a normal congratulations, we got roasted with insults. We're disrespectful, or how selfish of us to not include them in our home buying process. We need to humble ourselves and ask them for help because they've bought a house before and we haven't. They're so hurt and we're moving a few hours away, so we're going to be taking away the kind of grandparents they want to be, on and on and on about how our actions affect their lives. And apparently we need to share what's going on in our lives and not be so secretive. Oh yeah, and we are the entitled ones apparently, for living our own lives and not wanting their opinions. Not sure how that works. The whole thing about I don't want to announce it just in case there's a loss or something is a great point. As a man, I didn't really think of that before, but that is an excellent way to safeguard yourself from making something very personal very public. As far as I'm concerned, if you don't want to tell anybody these sorts of things, then you don't have to. The couple are both adults. They can make their own decisions. They can disclose what information they want to. Super entitled parent, for sure. Story 8. My horrible mother-in-law is homeless and my wife and I don't care. I'm 25M and married to a 26F named Carol, and her mother, Danielle, who is 61, is a complete bag of garbage, and that's the nicest way to say it. During Carol's childhood, Danielle would always belittle Carol and manipulate her into the most BS stuff. Mostly always claiming that her father abandoned them in CO to seek fame and fortune in CA and refusing to pay child support. Whereas she would actually be spending said child support on herself, buying books and clothes and not supporting her daughter. Danielle also changed Carol's last name on Social Security to Danielle's last name when she was just a little kid, which made it incredibly difficult for Carol to find a job as an adult, because she was an illegal alien to the US government. That meant she had one last name on her birth certificate and a different last name on her Social Security card. Danielle also had a very crap job that just didn't pay the best and had to get an apartment with Carol under Carol's name because Danielle had garbage credit. And Carol had a 0 credit score because she was 18 at the time and didn't have to pay her own bills. Danielle kept getting on Carol's case about not having a job, but Carol said she couldn't because of the name issue. They ended up getting evicted due to failure to pay rent because Danielle's job wasn't enough to pay for a luxury apartment and had to move in with Grandma. Danielle later lost her job during COVID and has been unemployed ever since. There are way too many scenarios about how Danielle would try to take advantage of her own daughter, but I don't want to bore y'all with the details. Anyway, on to the story. Back in late 2021, while me and Carol were engaged, she wanted to join the US Navy. She got her name changed to her father's last name on Social Security to match her birth certificate, and even gave her recruiter child custody papers to prove her name. She enlisted, got through basic, completed her A schooling, and got her orders to serve on a ship. We got married in September 2022 before she was shipped to VA for her new orders. While Carol was serving and I spent time packing my belongings to move out to VA myself, I learned that Danielle was going to therapy to possibly move on, or so I imagined. I tried so damn hard to stay away from her during that time, but she was always bugging me, wondering why Carol wasn't talking to her during the day. I let her know on repeated occasions that she has no cell service on her ship, but to her it was just one of those in one ear and right out the other kind of things. I eventually made it to VA in December 2022 to be with Carol. We have been ignoring all of Danielle's calls for a while. Fast forward to April. Carol gets a text from Danielle asking her to call to talk. They talk on the phone for a while and Carol learns that her grandma is not doing well. I also get my brother's high school graduation invitation in the mail and I want to see him graduate in May, which means Carol wants to see her grandma because she fears that she may not make it to the end of 2023. Danielle seemed to be super nice, and Carol and I both thought she changed because of all the therapy she'd been getting. So last week we fly back to CO and Danielle loans us her car while we're there and was being way too nice to us like a decent human being. We see my brother walk across the stage and Carol gets to see her grandma. While there, we learn that Grandma wants to move into a more safer place with Carol's aunt, and Danielle has to move somewhere else because in her eyes, everyone doesn't want to take me in because the family doesn't like me. We told her that if we weren't living in a 650 square foot one-bedroom apartment on the other side of the country, then we would help her. Again, she starts being even nicer to us while in CO. I even warned Carol that her being nice could mean something bad in the future given her past behavior. Carol agreed. A few days after we flew back to VA, which was 5 days ago, Carol gets a text from Danielle saying that she's going to have to live in her car because no one will help her in. A few days after we flew back to VA, which was 5 days ago, Carol gets a text from Danielle saying that she's going to have to live in her car because nobody will help her in. Carol asked her why she can't just get a job and get her own apartment, and she said that I can't get a job at my age, and it's been too long, and it's very expensive to live on your own, especially in CO. Carol told her that we unfortunately can't help her because 1, we live in a small apartment, and 2, we live 7 states away on the other side of the country. So now here we are today. I'm at work and I get a call from Carol saying that she needs to be with me. I ask if everything's okay because I can tell she's not. She said she would talk about it when she got there. 30 minutes later, she shows up and I go on my lunch break with her. She tells me that her mom literally asked for $1,000 to help her move from CO to VA so she could be with us. $1,000. We told her multiple times we couldn't help her because we don't have that kind of room. We also don't even have $1,000 because we live paycheck to paycheck. I was just flabbergasted. And Carol told me that her being super nice in recent times was way too good to be true, which is what I felt would happen. She either didn't get the therapy she needed or she lied. I don't know what the case was about that because there's no proof. I wasn't around for this part, but Carol and Danielle argued over the phone. More like cussing each other out, per se. Danielle was upset with Carol for not providing a home for her when she did it for her first 20 years of life, and now Carol can't return the favor. Carol then told her mother to just screw off already before hanging up and blocking her completely. Danielle is now homeless and living in her Nissan Sentra, but we couldn't care less. All those years Carol had to endure due to Danielle's entitled and narcissistic behavior is now biting her in the butt, and nobody wants to live with her because of this. Because that jerk only cares about herself and knows what she's doing wrong and doesn't give a crap. I personally and honestly don't care if she dies. I will piss on her grave when she does. This absolutely sounds like a classic case of an entitled, narcissistic parent who refuses to learn from their mistakes. Like, she just had so much time to get better, so much time, and just didn't. Now, in a time of need, she doesn't have anyone to help her because she pushed everyone away because she was just, bad. It's rough to think about her being homeless, but at the same time, it's kind of brought upon herself at this point. I hate to say it, but Danielle, you screwed up, girl.